The story begins in the gritty streets of Brooklyn, specifically during a time when organized crime was heavily involved in robberies, bank heists, and drug trafficking. The gangs were running the trade here, making mountains of cash. But they had one major problem: they had to launder that money. The only way to clean this dirty cash was through a very clever scheme. Every time they made a large sum, they would choose a random nightclub or bar to be the drop for the night. They would force the owners to hold the money. After a while, the gang would come to collect it from the hiding spots within these bars, places like dumpsters or empty liquor crates, smuggling it out without anyone knowing what was inside. All the bars in Brooklyn were part of this system against their will. None of them ever knew when it would be their turn to hide the money, because the gangs kept it completely random to prevent the police from catching on or setting a trap. Enter our protagonist, Bob Saganowski. Bob works as a bartender at a place called Cousin Marv's Bar. His cousin, Marv, appears to be a nice, quiet guy, but beneath that friendly exterior lies a man filled with resentment. Bob himself seems gentle and calm, but behind this politeness and silence hides a ruthless, retired hitman. Our friend spent a long time killing people for money, but every path has an end. Eventually, he began to feel guilt, retired from the life of crime, and started working at this bar. In this free time, when he isn't working, he goes to church to meditate and ask for forgiveness for the sins of his past as a hitman. Everything seemed fine in his life, even though he was occasionally forced to handle the gang's money when his bar was chosen as the drop point. To him, handing over packages of cash was nothing compared to the dark deeds he used to do. He is the kind of man who, if you brought him a confirmed fight, wouldn't hesitate. If you told him to slaughter a man, he could do it with a tiny razor.
Without blinking. One morning, Bob goes to work serving people at the bar as usual. That night, while walking home, he hears the sound of a beaten dog. He turns around to find the source. The dog barks again. Following the sound, Bob finds a small, battered, and badly wounded puppy inside a trash can. As Bob lifts the puppy from the trash, a woman who lives nearby steps out. At first, she is scared, thinking he's a thief trying to rob her or worse. But when Bob shows her the dog and explains the situation, she understands. Being cautious, she takes his ID card and takes a picture of it with her phone before letting him into her house to treat the dog. Unbeknownst to them, someone is watching from the shadows across the street. Inside, she returns his ID and introduces herself as Nadia. She has experience treating dogs. The puppy is young and very gentle. Bob, with his extensive experience in breaking into houses and killing people, notices something strange. Nadia insisted on bringing him in through the back door. He asks her about this. Nadia flinches slightly and explains, "You know, I live alone and I'm afraid of burglars attacking me. That's why I locked the front door permanently and only use the back." While Nadia treats the dog, Bob notices scars on her neck. He remarks on how strange it is for someone to hurt a small dog like this. Nadia tells him that there are plenty of people capable of such cruelty, and the owner was likely one of them. Bob initially planned to leave the dog with her once it was treated, but he is shocked to learn that she works all day and has no way to keep it. She asks what he will do, put it back on the street? She suggests taking it to an animal shelter. At first, Bob likes the idea, but then he imagines someone like the previous owner adopting the dog and doing the same thing to it. He cancels that idea immediately. After some thought, Bob decides to raise the dog himself. He asks Nadia to keep it for a couple of days.
He prepares his place. She agrees. The next day at work, Bob discusses the dog situation with his cousin Marv. He tells him about finding the dog and leaving it with Nadia. Marv doesn't like the idea. He tells Bob that a dog is just a distraction and requires too much care. But Bob has already made his decision. At this moment, we see two brothers sitting in a car outside the bar. They are arguing, and from their conversation, we learn they received a tip that the gang is dropping money at the bar tonight. They are here to rob it. The night ends, the customers leave, and Bob and Marv are cleaning up. Suddenly, the two masked men burst in with weapons drawn.
They scream at them to hand over the money meant for the gang. They threaten to kill them. Bob remains terrifyingly calm, completely unbothered by the chaos. Marv, on the other hand, who didn't know Bob was a former hitman and had lived through far worse disasters, is shocked by Bob's calmness, even more than the robbery itself. Bob hands over the money, stuffing it into their bag. As he does this, Bob notices a crucial detail. One of the robbers is wearing a broken watch on his wrist. Before leaving, one of the robbers hits the doorman hard on the head. Bob and Marv didn't want to call the police, but since the doorman was badly injured, they had to call an ambulance. Automatically, the police arrive to investigate. Detective Torres arrives on the scene. He questions to Bob. Torres asks about the robbery, trying to extract any details about the attackers. Bob tells him one of them was wearing a broken watch on his wrist. Marv hears this and is furious. He later yells at Bob, "Why did you give the cop that information? You told him they were wearing gloves and masks, so how did you see the watch?" Bob explains that the sleeve rode up when the robber reached for the money. Detective Torres is suspicious of them anyway. He knows they launder money
for the gangs, but he has no proof. After the police leave and the bar closes, Bob heads to the church. He spends the night there thinking about the dog. In the morning, he goes to Nadia's house to pick him up. Bob knows nothing about raising animals, so he asks Nadia to help him. She agrees, and they go to a pet store. She buys a collar, a tennis ball, food bowls, and a cage. As they print the name tag, she asks what he will name him. Bob says Rocco. As Bob drops Nadia off at her home, we see that same mysterious figure watching them from a distance again. Who is he? We will find out soon. The next day, while Bob and Marv are shoveling snow outside the bar, a van pulls up. It's Chofka, the leader of the Chechen gang whose money was stolen. Marv is terrified. Chofka asks if they know who stole the money. Marv stammers, but Bob steps in calmly. He says the robbers wore masks, so they couldn't identify them. Chofka opens the van door to show them something. Inside, there's a man tied up, beaten, with his leg taped to a metal bar. Marv is horrified, his stomach turning. But Chofka is impressed by Bob's stability and how calm he remains. Seeing Bob show no reaction to the tortured man makes Chofka respect him. He tells them if they hear anything, they must call him. Later that night, Marv meets with one of the robbers from that night. Here is the twist. We learn that Marv was the one who planned the robbery to pay off his gambling debts. He meets the two thieves to split the money. Marv is furious because they hit the doorman, which forced them to involve the police. He asks the robber, the one with the broken watch, when the next hit is. The robber says to wait until things cool down. Marv, paranoid that the robber might talk, tells him to get out of the car. As the robber walks behind the car, Marv reverses and crushes him, killing him to tie up loose ends. Meanwhile, Bob is getting attached to Rocco. The dog fills the emptiness in his life. One afternoon,
walking the dog, Nadia stops by. They start talking and she suggests he leave the dog with her when he works. Bob agrees and they start spending more time together. As Nadia leaves, the stalker appears again. He approaches Bob and says strangely, "Nice dog you have there. Take care of him." Just those words, then he walks away. Bob feels something is wrong, but dismisses it. Back home, while putting Rocco in his cage, Bob hears a knock at the door. He checks the peephole, no one. He opens the door and the stalker pushes his way in. He says his name is Eric Deeds, and he claims the dog is his. He shows Bob papers proving the dog has a microchip registered to him. This is the man who beat the dog and threw it in the trash. Bob asks what he wants. Eric looks around, picks up an umbrella, and leaves, implying a threat. Bob realizes this guy is a bottom feeder, someone who preys on the weak. A week later, Bob and Marv are cleaning the back of the bar. Bob notices a plastic bag hanging on the fence. He opens it and finds all the stolen money inside. But that's not all. Buried in the cash is a severed arm. On the wrist of that arm is the broken watch.
Marv, being a coward, can't even look at it. Bob, however, takes the arm out of the bag. With chilling calmness, he starts wrapping the severed arm in plastic wrap, cling film, rolling it up exactly like he would wrap a piece of meat or cheese in a deli. Marv watches him, terrified by how calm Bob is. He's wrapping a human limb like it's a sandwich. Suddenly, Eric walks into the bar. Bob quickly hides the wrapped arm. Eric asks for a drink. Marv tells him they're closed and kicks him out. Bob takes the arm, puts it in a weighted bag, takes Rocco to the pier, and throws the arm into the ocean. Detective Torres approaches Bob at the pier. He asks about a man named Richie Whelan. Torres reveals that Eric Deeds claims to have killed Richie years ago. Torres suspects Eric is a killer, but has no proof. This shocks Bob. Not that Eric is a killer, but that Eric is taking credit for Richie's death. Bob goes to pick up Rocco from Nadia's. He asks her about Eric. Her face changes. She refuses to talk. Later at the bar, Chofka collects the returned money, minus the arm, and tells Marv and Bob that the bar will be the drop for the Super Bowl night. This means millions of dollars will be flowing through. Chofka warns them, "If you lose my money again, I will kill you both." Bob goes to Nadia's house. She finally opens up. She tells him she used to date Eric Deeds. He was abusive, a psychopath who beat her. The scars on her neck are from him. Bob feels deep sympathy for her. To cheer her up, he brings juice and they spend the night talking and laughing. It seems like Bob is finally ready to move on from his past. But when he returns home, he finds his house broken into. The umbrella Eric stole is left there. Then Eric confronts him. He demands $10,000 to leave Bob and the dog alone. Bob realizes Eric is just hustling him, but he agrees to pay him at the bar on Super Bowl night just to end it. Marv calls in sick for the Super Bowl night, leaving Bob to run the bar alone. Bob knows immediately what this means. Marv is planning to rob the bar again. He confronts Marv, telling him, "If you do this again, I won't cover for you." But Marv is desperate. On the morning of the Super Bowl, Marv meets with Eric Deeds. Marv needs a new partner since he killed the last one. He recruits Eric to help him rob the bar that night. Eric agrees, thinking he'll get the robbery money and the $10,000 from Bob. Super Bowl night. The bar is packed. Money is pouring in from the gangs. Bob is stuffing envelopes of cash into the time lock safe. Eric arrives, dragging Nadia with him to use as leverage. Bob sees this and is furious. Outside, Marv is waiting in his car for Eric to finish the job. The game ends. The crowd leaves. It's just Bob, Eric, and Nadia. Eric demands the money. Bob puts $10,000 on the counter and tells Eric to take it and never come back. Eric laughs. He wants it all. He threatens to kill Nadia. Eric tries to scare Bob by bragging, "You know I'm crazy. I'm the one who killed Richie Whelan." Bob looks at him with dead eyes. "No, you didn't," Bob says softly. "Richie Whelan owed Marv money. I went to his house. I shot him in the face. I disposed of the body in a heating oil tank. You just heard the rumor and took the credit because you wanted people to fear you." Eric is stunned. Before he can react, Bob pulls a hidden gun from under the bar and bang, shoots Eric in the neck. As Eric falls, choking on his own blood, Bob walks over and puts a second bullet in his head. Calm, professional. Nadia is horrified. She realizes the gentle man she liked is a cold-blooded killer. Bob looks at her and says, "He was going to hurt you. I had no choice." Bob calls the police? No, he calls Chofka. The gang arrives. They see Eric dead and the money safe. Chofka realizes Marv was the traitor. He has his men execute Marv instantly in his car, instantly. Chofka turns to Bob. He sees a professional. He tells Bob, "You run the bar now. You belong to us." The next day, Bob is sitting on Nadia's porch.
She comes out, wearing a coat, ready to leave. She looks at him. She knows what he is now. But she also knows he saved her. Bob asks if she wants to go for a walk. She hesitates, then agrees. The movie ends with them sitting together, two broken people trying to find a way forward in a dark world. And that, my friends, is the story of The Drop. It's a story about how the quietest people are often the ones you should fear the most, and how everyone, no matter how broken, is just looking for something to care for. Before you go, I want to share something personal with you. I spend days, sometimes weeks, researching, translating, and editing these stories to make sure every single detail is perfect for you, so you can live the movie without moving from your chair. It's a lot of hard work, sleepless nights, and endless coffee. I look at the analytics and I see that thousands of you are watching and enjoying these videos, which makes my heart swell with pride. But most of you aren't subscribed yet. If this story moved you, or if you appreciate the effort I put into bringing these hidden gems to life, please do me a huge favor. Click that subscribe button and turn on the bell. It's free for you, but for me, it's the fuel that keeps this channel alive. It tells me that this hard work is worth it. Thank you for watching, thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next story.